This segment is the future of sports production. Brandon Costa from SVG. Come on, Brandon. How you doing? I got this for you. Okay, great. There you go.
All right.
And with Brandon, I know you've seen some familiar faces here today already. We've got Darryl Jefferson, NBC Sports and Olympics, Andy Beale with BT Sport, Ofir Benofici with Avid, and Noah Gusdorff, Creative Mobile Solutions. Round of applause as we bring our next session up and we get on track here.
All right, thank you very much. You guys hear me? Is this thing on? All right, great. My name is Brandon Costa. I'm a director of digital at Sports Video Group. It's always our honor to take part in this event. Avid Connect with Avid, another fantastic job this morning with the announcements. At Sports Video Group, for those of you who don't know, we're kind of the trade association, if you will, for people who work in the sports television and video industry. I'm not going to talk too much about what we do because you're not here to hear what Sports Video Group does. You're here to hear what these fine gentlemen do. So we're going to move ahead into our discussion now, talking about some of the big things that are, whoa, I almost fell out of the chair. That would have been awesome. Okay, great. So we're going to kind of try to give you the Cliff Notes version of the Cliff Notes of what is the state of sports video production, particularly live. And we've got some really, really smart minds here to talk about it. From across the industry. I'd like to give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves real quick and talk a little bit about a big project that you might be working on, just quick notes, and then we can go kind of dive deeper in on specific topics. Noah, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'm Noah Gusdorff from Creative Mobile Solutions. As our name sounds, everything we do is mobile, and every project we do is unique. Basically, we specialize in on-location post-production. And right on the heels of that last panel, perfect timing, it's really merging into a hybrid cloud post-production infrastructure. Some of the cool stuff we've done this year is we handled all of the media and post-production for Fox for the Super Bowl. We were the technical vendor for all of the post and media and recording for ESPN and the BBC for the Invictus games, which was a huge Avid workflow on location. And we've got a lot of cool stuff going on right now with NASCAR and just a host of other projects. But basically, we specialize in taking post where it typically doesn't go and making it work like it's supposed to.
Cool, cool. If you've been to Avid Connect before, you know Mr. Darryl Jefferson very well. The guy hits a lot of big projects out of the park, including the Rio Games last summer, Pyeongchang coming up next year. Yeah. So you up to anything else, Darryl?
Yeah. My name's Darryl Jefferson. I'm with NBC Sports Group. As Brandon was mentioning, we just completed the Rio Games this past summer. We're working now on integration for the Pyeongchang Games. And also we have the Kentucky Derby coming up. We're in the middle of Stanley Cup playoffs with the NHL. We have a whole host of projects between here and there. Next year we'll have both the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and the World Cup in Spanish. So busy year for 2018 for sure.
And Super Bowl and Olympics also in the same week, you know.
Correct.
Not for nothing.
Correct.
Ofir, thank you so much for having us and for letting Sports Video Group continue to be a part of this and for continuing the conversations around live sports production. A lot of really exciting announcements from the session earlier this morning. So what are the things jump out to you that are really applicable if you put the microscope on it for sports production folks?
Yeah, so things that, so first of all, just to introduce myself, Ofir Benofici, coming from the product team at Avid, and I'm, amongst other, I'm looking after some of the broadcast portfolio of sports being one of them. And obviously, you know, when you're looking into, on Monday, you'll go into the corridors of NAB and you'll ask, what do you think about Avid? Sports will probably not be the first thing that will jump into mind. I can talk about post-production, you'll talk about news. Sports will not be the first thing that will jump off. And then actually when you're looking at the people that are sitting in the panel and how dependent they are on what Avid is delivering to the table, then this is what we want to outline. The sports solutions that we are delivering and how this is going to be taking into the next generation based on the announcements that were just made in the panel before.
Great, great. And down at the end, Andy from BT Sport. You guys are one of the more aggressive broadcasters in the world when it comes to trying new stuff. So what have you been up to lately?
Hi, thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm Andy Beale, Chief Engineer for BT Sports, one of the two biggest sport networks in the UK. We're home to things like the Premier League, FA Cup, domestic rugby, and exclusively the home of the Champions League. And a lot of our focus at the minute is around the Champions League final, which this year will come from Cardiff. So we're the host broadcaster, and you wait for telling me it's bigger as a one-day sport than even the Super Bowl. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't want to be controversial, but it's a claim I like to make anyway. Events like this, it sounds great, right? So we're excited about that. A lot of new innovation coming for that, and we'll be adding, using the stuff we've been doing recently. So a lot of stuff around Ultra HD. We pioneered Ultra HD 15 months ago, and recently adding Dolby Atmos to that experience.
So, okay, so that's great. To just kind of give you guys a little bit of an outline, we won't get into all of these topics, but some of the big things that's happening across our membership with the Sports Video Group. You've heard already 4K UHD dropped quite a bit. HDR's cult following is also continuing to grow and grow, especially on the live sports production side. Lots of conversations around at-home workflows, REMIs, whatever you kind of call them. We like to call them at-home workflows, and we're going to stick to it, and everyone's going to ignore us, but we'll just keep doing it. Other things like IP production, VR, social streaming as Facebook Live, and those things become bigger and bigger and add more avenues where content needs to go. But we do have a little bit of a presentation here. Darryl, you came with a video prepared. It's less than a year till Pyeongchang. You haven't even probably shaken off your Rio hangover yet, and you're like, bang. It might be one of the shortest windows of time between a set of Olympic Games between summer and winter.
That's fair.
Probably fair to say. So you brought a clip. You want to tee it up?
Sure. Basically, this is a look ahead. With technology and with sports, for sure, we always look ahead instead of kind of grousing about what could have gone better or what have you, looking backwards. So this is just a look ahead to 2018.
In 2018, for the first time in history, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and the World Cup will all call one place home: NBC Universal. On February 4th, the greatest day in American sports returns to NBC.
How special is this? And away we go. It is caught for a touchdown. Great catch. That gang was one for the ages.
Super Bowl 52 from Minneapolis.
This place is rocking now.
4 days later, all eyes will turn halfway around the world, where a flame will be lit as the greatest athletes on snow and ice compete on the world's biggest stage.
Lindsey Vonn. Shaun White. How about that performance? Michaela Schifrin wins gold for the U.S.
Bow down to Nathan Chen.
A perfect 100!
The Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. Then, in summer 2018, from Russia, Telemundo will capture all the pageantry and passion of the beautiful game for millions of the most devoted soccer fans across the country, with exclusive Spanish language coverage of the World Cup. Three epic events, one home. NBC Universal.
Very cool. That'll get you pumped up, right?
Yeah.
Biggest thing I got. Yeah, please. Biggest thing I got out of that video when you sent it across is so it's Pyeongchang. That's
Pyeongchang.
I've been Americanizing the heck out of it. We're going to Pyeongchang.
It's pronounced Pyeongchang.
Pyeongchang. All right, that's what we're going with.
The big deal there for us, on top of those, as the video described, 3 epic events, we also have day jobs. We also are doing all of the other events that we're doing during the year. So trying to make all of that make sense with no new people and no new tech is challenging.
Yeah, and you guys have kind of, I mean, there's a lot of broadcasters in the United States who are taking, feeds from globally, but it does feel like NBC has kind of become the place for international events in the United States when you think about the Premier League, when you think about Formula One, when you think about all those types of things. So you guys have really developed and kind of been needed to develop workflows that allow you to take in as many feeds as possible and put your NBC touch on them in Stamford and not necessarily from where the event might be taking place.
Correct. You mentioned the at-home, and we call it the same thing. So that
yes, all right. Get on the train.
For at-home operations, when you have two huge events like Super Bowl and the Olympics 4 days apart, there's no way to really kind of push a workforce that far globally without just trying to do so many more things from a fixed place at home and then just kind of pivot from event to event. Those workflows that we've used for a few games just intensify, and what we're trying to do with them grows over time.
Very great. And with each Olympics, it seems like the dispersal of talent continues to change. I mean, during Rio, you had, what was it, 4 or 5 different locations maybe you had people operating and covering the Olympics from in some capacity, Rio being one of them, but you know, Hialeah, Stanford, probably a couple I'm forgetting. But do you see how much of a step forward are we going to see in Pyeongchang in regards to that, and how many more people will stay home? I know you guys are able to outfit a ton of stuff beforehand. The IBC setup time is a fraction of what it used to be 10, 20 years ago. So what's kind of the advancement do you see coming?
I think we're going to send a good deal of people on site, both to the broadcast center, but also to the venues. It will get smaller, and there's only one direction. Everything gets bigger and bigger, but we can do more with more people at home as well. We'll use all of the control rooms, we'll use all of the studios and so forth at our home location and kind of broadcast out from there. So we can kind of build up and build on what we had. Also social, more and more folks from BuzzFeed will be along for the ride again. So we're excited about that partnership as well.
Nice. I'm sure we'll get into some more stuff here with you. Andy, wanted to kind of bring you into the conversation here and talk about some of the stuff that you're doing. You saw Avid had a pretty exciting announcement this morning about integrating Dolby Atmos, which is really kind of a lot of people are looking at as the next wave in audio technology and in building that experience at home. And you're one of the people out there that's actually been able to play with this stuff and create broadcasts, whether they're Premier League matches. You did a pretty highly publicized one with a Chelsea-Liverpool matchup, but you've also been doing it for rugby and things of that nature. So could you kind of give us a little bit of a lowdown of what that experience has been like?
So you know, our Dolby Atmos journey kind of began right after our UHD journey, and so we launched UHD in the summer of 2015. At the time, it was parallel production, 2 trucks, world-leading stuff, and then within about 2 weeks of doing this, I sat down with some of my colleagues and Jamie, my boss, and said, look, we talked about, is it enough just to do the pictures? Pictures are great, but does that tell the whole story? And sport, and I think the video here made the point really well. It's all about passion. It's all about getting close. It's feeling that tension, and it's how do you bring that experience closer? And sound, as we know, and any movie maker knows, sound is more important in some ways to getting the tension and setting the scene than the pictures. And so we sat down with the folks at Dolby and look at the Dolby Atmos product, ran some trials. We're very excited to do a demonstration proof of concept with SVG at IBC. Same day we launched our IP 4K truck, and we launched it live on the end of, like you say, at the end of January with a Liverpool game. And when Liverpool walk out and "You'll Never Walk Alone" is coming through the speakers and the crowd are singing, and the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, and you really feel the tension. And the commentary team were just taken back. And I remember our lead commentators saying, "Let's just stop a minute and listen to the Liverpool fans, and listen to this, really understand the palpable sensation in the stadium." And it's been really great. The technical press have really been very kind to us. It's been very successful in terms of their view on it as an added service. And we've now done it on rugby, so some of the big games, some big champions, Challenge Cup and Champions Cup games. We've done it on boxing. The tension inside an arena when it's very high. That emotion and energy that's in a boxing match in a big closed arena with the crowd cheering on their fighter, with all the music and everything. Sounds fantastic. It really does bring a sense of occasion back to the viewer.
It seems like the sports that it's really working on for you guys is like, look, HD is still a great way to watch sporting events, but you're able to take it to another level based on the experience of what it's like to be there. So sure, I can get a really good feel for what it's like to watch, a Premier League match. But if you want to know what it's like to be at a Premier League match, then you're going to another level with what you guys are doing. So with UHD, not too many people have done more UHD live sports productions than you guys in the world. What obstacles are left for you? What would you like to see kind of continue to grow? I mean, how close is the rest of the world to maybe being able to look at what you guys do and go, yeah, okay, we can do that?
Yeah, we've done, this year alone, since we moved, so the first year it was parallel production, I mentioned earlier. We said to ourselves at the beginning of the year, this couldn't be more than a one-year project because it's not commercially sustainable. It's not a good way to work, to have two separate production teams. For a viewer, that's a confusing message, having two sets of commentators, and people want to jump now between platforms, right? They want to walk out on their tablet or their phone, they want to come home, watch it on the TV in the kitchen, on a small TV in HD or SD, they want to watch it on the 4K screen, and they don't understand why there might be two different production values. So for us, making that journey quickly into single production was really important, and we worked really closely with all of our rights holder partners, and we had great support from the Premier League and from UEFA and the rugby team, and we're able to move into the single shot production from this year. And it's been really successful. So we've done over 250 events since August, covering, as I said before, all the regular high-end sport you expect, but also things like hockey, world hockey, boxing, MotoGP, all sorts of things. To answer your question, what barriers are left? I think we know the thing about visual mixing and production. The one bit which is still, from a technical perspective, for me, still not quite there is the replay system. Okay. Frustrating, I have to say. There's a big gap in the market there, waiting to be filled, and right now the replays still aren't good enough for any of the people that we're going to be seeing at the show next week. So I'm hoping for some interesting announcements, because for me that's the one piece of the jigsaw left, that workflow piece, which is so important. In sport, fast turnaround workflows, in and out of edit quickly, all this stuff is important, and still at the minute that's not as easy as I think it should be, to be honest, in 4K.
Darryl, you're doing some 4K too, Notre Dame games, things like that. That's feeding through DirecTV. Would you agree with some of the assessments there?
Yeah, absolutely. The replay aspect is definitely missing. Also, it's surprising the supporting of growing files throughout an entire ecosystem still is kind of the breaker for many vendor solutions. Those two things for me are big, and a multi-res workflow. If you're dealing with greater than HD, it's also a linchpin of okay, what is proxy to you? Proxy to you might be HD in that moment. So it's getting all those pieces for your ecosystem, I think, are some things that we're looking out for at the show as well.
Okay, cool. Noah, let's talk about some of the workflows that you've been doing, because you guys, have kind of established yourself as one of the forefront people when it comes to helping sports broadcasters, particularly in the United States, in this concept of like a connected compound, being able to share resources between every truck. You hear all the different kinds of avenues and viewing platforms where people need to see stuff. You got digital teams on site. You got people possibly experimenting with 4K, and you got all these feeds on an EBS network or an Avid system, whatever it may be. So when a broadcaster brings you in and says, hey, we want to help you connect this compound with our broadcast facility back home, wherever it may be, what are they asking you to do, and how are you kind of changing how people are able to share resources on site?
Sure. That's a really big question. I'll try to get a couple bullet points to knock that one down. But we first started off as broadcasters were asking us, how do we quickly get files from our various broadcast systems, mostly EVS systems, into post? And then it was, how can I move them quickly off-site to somewhere else, whether it was an at-home production or a REMI, as some other large sports network calls it.
We'll make them crack.
Exactly. But then as we started looking into working with the manufacturers and the software vendors that were out there, we really got into realizing linking up all of the different manufacturers and linking up all of the different, whether it's truck vendors, fly pack vendors, everybody that comes together to put together a production for the client. The thing that was a huge lacking entity was one converged network and one converged storage pool or tier of storage pools to pull it all together. So we have been growing rapidly our offerings and capabilities over the last let's say 36 months in really strengthening our network teams and our storage teams. So the challenge we were given 2 years ago, Fox came to us with the US Open and said, we're kicking off Fox's coverage of the USGA, and we want to converge everything. So they knew what we were working on up until that point. That's really when they said, okay, do it on a large scale. We built out a 10 gig network that tied all of the truck vendors together, all of the different ingest and playout networks together, tied it in with post, and then also tied it into their internal IT department, since they have their own security requirements and transport requirements for interacting with their internal systems. So we had a number of touch points, all using one large high-speed network that we were administrating. And then they said, well, that went well, let's build on it.
Okay.
We luckily, a lot of our clients talk to each other a lot, so then ESPN came to us and said, that was cool, we have another idea for this. And we were able to expand a lot of our offerings there, where over the last couple seasons we built on top of that network platform, and we built out some of our own data center cloud backbone to support our services, and then we've also been expanding just from that physical data center to the cloud. What that has allowed us to do is this season jumping to ESPN and networking and managing file transfer services and metadata with them. I think we're at 90-something NBA games at this point. We're going to be well over 100 by the time the finals are done, and we're able to get metadata-rich content and angles that aren't available on air back to them to do at-home broadcast with. And since they have so many different outlets, whether it's web or ESPN2 or the whole host of outlets they have, they're able to show in-game content that wasn't available during the broadcast, so they're not losing any eyeballs. And it's really, we're driving that with our network, and we have very small kits that now can merge trucks and different vendors together, all just through using mostly off-the-shelf technology, but really bringing it's a combination of Cisco engineers and TV engineers that we're using to tie the whole thing together. And then just real quick, the last bullet point would be this year's Super Bowl. It was between Fox and ESPN. Fox came back to us and said, that's cool how you built on what you've been doing for ESPN. Now we want to do something bigger, which we said, awesome, we love a challenge. We integrated all of the Fox production locations, the stadium, the Discovery Green location where they had all of their studio shows, Minute Maid Park where they were doing interviews and press day and all of that. We had a fully redundant ring network of 10 gig going around the city of Houston. We had multiple backbone providers and multiple private connections into the Fox network that were all coming through our fully redundant managed system. And I can tell you redundancy definitely works. There were a couple moments where we would see certain parts of the network performing and other parts not performing, and the users at the edge never saw a difference because of the way that our team engineered and built everything. We were able to keep the required deliverables and specs running from all their different sites. So across the city of Houston, an editor had no idea, or a media manager had no idea if the media was 10 feet away from them on a server, or if it was 25 miles on the other side of the city away from them.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, right?
Exactly. And then on top of that, that was converging into the cloud, and folks back at their network centers on both coasts were working with the footage. So that's kind of a quick evolution of how we've been really building the network and management backbone to be able to move all sorts of files faster, and also really bring all of the vendors together. We can take anybody's network without really having to modify the way their truck or the way their fly pack is running, bring it into our world, and merge them all together. So that's.
And real quickly before we run out of time, Ofir, I want to get you the opportunity to say a few things here. It's intriguing to see how excited you guys are in the main room about hybrid workflows in specific. circumstances and how your tools help enable that. As you mentioned, there's a lot of other big pools that you guys play in when it comes to movies, music, whatever it may be. So specifically for sports, what is it about hybrid workflows that you think should really have sports content creators excited?
Yeah, I think that it's actually interesting because when you think about the history of sports production, right? Mm-hmm. Then sports has always been at the forefront of TV production. Like that's how HD got introduced into production and so forth. And just by hearing what the colleagues here are sharing, so start with UHD and Dolby Atmos. I mean, this is really pushing the frontiers, and what Darryl is trying to, the examples that he gave about, trying to produce such big events in literally a gap of 4 days. How can you do that? So there's two examples of why sport is, first of all, so unique. Mm-hmm. And this is why, I guess, why we are sitting here and discussing sports as a unique workflow with a unique set of challenges. And this is why it's also very exciting, right? That's why we like it. And when you look at the ways that we approach it, so I think there are two axes to that. The first axis is about the storytelling. Mm-hmm. How can we, as a vendor, can enable a better storytelling, and whether that would be on enabling UHD workflow. I mean, you heard in the reveal session about our end-to-end UHD workflows that we are now that we announced and are working on, or whether that would be the Dolby Atmos, or whether that would be sports enhancements, or any other great storytelling tools that we can deliver. At the same time, trying to match that with the reality and the economics of today, and that comes back to the platform play. And how can you produce such massive events with the same resources that you have continuing to run like your day-to-day production? And this is basically what we are trying to do there. And this is what is driving our sports solution. So on one hand, delivering a great storytelling tool, and at the same time providing them as an integrated solution based on the platform.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we got a couple of minutes here left, so I want to kind of give you guys each an opportunity, maybe lightning round style, something that you're particularly excited about, whether it's at your own company or something you've seen on the outside that's kind of moving the sports side of the industry forward in particular. Really take it wherever you want to go. If you've seen a really cool Dolby Atmos presentation, whether it's your opinions on VR and augmented reality, things like that. Really, wherever you want to take it, it's kind of for your picking. So why don't we start at the end with Andy? What's something that you're particularly excited about that maybe could potentially be in a different place when we're here a year from now?
I think probably for us, the next, one of the things we've been looking at for a little while, I think like a lot of people, is VR. I'm trying to work out where is the opportunity with VR. There's no doubt there's something there. And we're very keen that we didn't just do VR for the sake of it, because the danger of VR is it becomes one of those things people pick up, they try it, they go, that's interesting, or it's cool, and then it's gone. And so we were very keen that we didn't just do something for the sake of it and make it disposable. It had to bring life, had to bring value, had to be a purpose. And for that reason, we waited quite a long time, actually. We did lots of tests, we did some experiments, but until we brought it to the market as such, waited for the right event. That event for us was boxing, because in the boxing arena, clearly, you've got a nice small area. You can put a camera genuinely where no one can go, right on the edge of the ring. We've got a camera in both of the neutral corners. And you can't go there. I mean, that genuinely takes you to a position that is unobtainable. And so VR in that experience works really well. So we did it for the first time 2 weeks ago at a big boxing launch, and to see the fight that close is a fantastic VR experience. Really can start to get close and feel see the fighters battling it out. Works as well in Magic Window as it does in goggles, which a lot of sports don't. They're compromised, and you have to make really difficult compromised decisions. And so for us, I think that's interesting. To try and work out the next opportunities, we're going to do some big stuff around VR, I think, for Cardiff probably, do some live cameras. But again, it's working out the best way to use that, not just putting cameras out for the sake of it. It's got to be engaging. It's got to bring value to the viewer, make it a worthwhile addition.
That's very exciting. We'll definitely have to look out for that. Ofir, what do you think?
Yeah, I think talking about VR, so I think people still have like memories from the stereoscopic adventures. So I think that people are kind of, they still have that in the back of the mind. But I think that yes, VR is definitely one of the new trends that is coming along. We've been engaged with VR production in the recent Super Bowl. So I think it's not going to take off as fast as some people may hope. but I think that it's going to become more and more into the day-to-day production. We're going to see more and more production coming into VR. And the second thing for me is UHD. I think that getting the UHD from the the early starters of UHD like BT into like a conventional day-to-day production. I think this is one of the main challenges that we're going to see coming up in the next 2 years or so.
Cool, cool. Darryl, what are you pumped about?
I think two things. One, we've seen kind of a growth on social media of the use of video. And as Andy was saying, like getting, it only matters if it brings more value or brings people closer to the event. But you think, for me, I think about the Olympics and the Phelps face that happened behind the stage. We've never had a camera back in the warm-up room, and it immediately went viral and added some drama to a match that, or a swim event that was already going to be high with drama.
Talk about storytelling. I mean,
exactly. But you think about all of the things that are happening, very short bursts, well away from the field of play, and it adds something. So I think more and more integration with social there, and I'm also excited about HDR. Just getting, when you see these amazing images with the color spectrum so vibrant, you can really see kind of connected either with 4K content or with 1080p content. It's just, we're excited about that too.
That's awesome. Noah, real quick from you, what are you excited about?
Sure. So I mean, as a vendor and solutions provider to gentlemen like Darryl and Andy, I've given up trying to predict where we're going next, because it seems like they always have some ideas that we haven't come up with yet. But I'm really pumped about, I love where everything is going right now, where the technology is converging onto a really common IT backbone that that's where we were hoping it was going to go a few years ago when we made some major investments into data capabilities and networking technology. And it allows us to adapt to whatever challenges our clients bring us. And I'm excited about, solving problems, and really the thing I love about this industry that keeps me going is you never do the same thing twice, and something is, as soon as you install a solution and you think it's great, you're about 2 years behind and you better start building again. So I love doing this, so I'm excited about whatever the next challenge is.
All right. Well, again, from everyone at Sports Video Group, we want to thank Avid for letting us continue to be a part of this great event that you guys host. Round of applause for these gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Always, we love our sports, and hearing these innovations, watching the NBA, the NHL playoffs, it's so exciting to see what is happening and changing right before our eyes. So thank you guys, Darryl, Ofir, all of you who are up here today. I mean, no, we're appreciative to have you here. And at this point, Brandon, if you didn't know this, Brandon stepped away from his summit, which is in a tropical place, that he was kind enough to share his time. So one more time, round of applause for our panel.